All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the guys that are not the biggest names. I mean, it's Matthew Stafford has 31 out of 45 for 337 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Obviously, we're going to talk about it. Cam Akers, pretty quiet game for him, 13 carries, 48 yards. Cooper Kupp, another extraordinary performance from him. 11 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The only thing more ridiculous than Cooper Kupp putting up the numbers that he did and contend really has done all season long is that we've gotten to a point where it almost feels customary, where this is the expectation, that the expectation is, I don't know, catch 8, 10 passes, score a touchdown or two, go for 100 yards or so, 125. Maybe if you have a air quotes slow night, maybe somewhere in the 90s. And he did it all over again, including a huge catch on 3rd and 3 on that final drive that was extraordinary. We saw Aaron Donald and Von Miller in the backfield on the very last play of the game that ends up with an interception from Traven Howard to kind of close the show. Again, star players playing like star players, and that's incredibly important. But the Rams had a few guys today that I thought did a very, very good job. Let's start with the backup tight end, Kendall Blanton. Tyler Higbee got hurt very early in the game. He never came back in, and the Rams' depth at tight end is virtually non-existent. It's Tyler Higbee, it's Kendall Blanton, and then you or me or anybody else that maybe wanted to go down there and give it a shot. Kendall Blanton, this goes back to something we talked about on Locked On Rams last week, right? When he scored the first touchdown of the game against the Tampa Bay Bucks, it was his first touchdown pass of the season, only his 5th reception of the season. And you're thinking, okay, that's just kind of a one-off deal. It's certainly not a guy that you're going to, game plan for, certainly not a guy that you're expecting to get massive production from. Well, don't look now, but Kendall Blanton gave you a real tight end performance tonight. 5 catches for 57 yards. Maybe that's not Travis Kelce kind of numbers, but what it was is it kept it moving. All of a sudden, if you have a guy that you have to defend, like they had to defend Kendall Blanton, you can't put that extra guy on Cooper Kupp. You can't put that extra guy on Odell Beckham Jr. And to come in there with literally no backup. Had he gone down, maybe an offensive lineman goes in there, maybe Ben Skoranek tries to take a couple of snaps at tight end. Who knows? He did not come off the field really the rest of the day. Just an unbelievable performance from him to be able to do what he did in that game with really no prep. I mean, you figure he's going to play a handful of snaps here or there, but Tyler Higbee's going to be the guy. One of the keys to the game we talked about coming into this was the space in the middle of the field and how Tyler Higbee was probably the guy that was best suited to take advantage of that. And now all of a sudden he's unavailable and you've got a backup in there the way that you did in Kendall Blanton, and he stepped up and did a very good job. So good a job, in fact, that you even had an opportunity to run a little bit of a trick play with him involved in it. I mean, that's not something that I think anybody coming in thought was a possibility. So congratulations to him for stepping up in a very big moment, because coming up in Super Bowl 56, we know how these goes. It's exactly like what happened today, where your stars need to be your stars. You're going to have to get a performance from somebody that you aren't expecting. You're going to have to get a big day from maybe somebody that's, a character actor, to use a Hollywood term along the way. It's not your leading man. It's not the Hollywood starlet. It's somebody that's playing the sister or the kid brother or whatever that steps in and does it the way that Kendall Blanton did. So good job on him. I don't know if this qualifies as a supporting player because he might be one of the biggest stars in the league, but Odell Beckham Jr. picked a very good time to have his best performance as a Ram. 9 catches, 113 yards, and a couple of very, very tough plays along the way. Let's stick with him for half a second, because as good as he was and as good as those numbers are that I just mentioned, there were so many things talked about with OBJ when he was in New York with the Giants, when he was in Cleveland with the Browns, and you hear him enough and you just kind of start to believe them to be true. Since he's come over here, he has been A, fantastic, but B, here's what I did not know about him. And maybe it was they didn't see a ton of Browns games, and because they didn't throw him the ball very often in Cleveland, and the way that it ended in New York certainly left you with a bad taste in your mouth. That dude is strong. I'm not just talking about like just a strong football. You do not move him off the spot. You watch that ball come in there, even when Matt Stafford has to rifle the ball in there, coming in there with some, Clayton Kershaw level velocity. All of a sudden, that ball just pops, sticks right in his hands. Just an extraordinary performance by him tonight. And if this is how this graph continues to go, if this is what he looks like in the NFC Championship game after playing pretty well in the earlier playoff games, after playing well at the end of the season for the Rams, after getting off to a little bit of a slow start when he first came in, what's the Super Bowl going to look like? I don't know, but I'm pretty excited to see it because he was absolutely fantastic as well. Let's go to our final kind of unsung guy of the night. If I said to you, who do you think led the Rams in tackles tonight? How many names are you going to go to before you land on Eric Weddle? Because he did. Eric Weddle had 9 tackles for the Rams. Yes, the same Eric Weddle that was playing video games or doing whatever it is people do when you aren't playing safety in the NFL. Just an unbelievable performance by him as well. And this is why it really does start to feel like the Rams are onto a little bit of something. Like the Rams maybe might be that team that this is their year, because even when bad things happen, right? Taylor Rapp gets a concussion and he's unavailable. Jordan Fuller has to go down and he's unavailable for the rest of the year. And this is already a position group where maybe they've been struggling a little bit along the way. And you just make a call, and really there's no other word for it other than desperation. Hey, you've been hitting the Stairmaster. You've been, have you been laying off the chocolate chip cookies for the last couple of years? Because we might need you for a month or so. And Weddle says, yeah, sure, let's go do it. And not only did he do it, not only is he standing there with his uniform on and looking the part, and maybe he's over there cheering along, and he can be kind of like a coach on the sidelines. And no, you need to be over here. When Jalen does this, you need to do that. He's out there doing it. And it just was really remarkable that Eric Weddle, who has not played football for 2 years, is all of a sudden the leading tackler on your team in the NFC Championship game. Yeah, if you had that one, you probably had the Bengals in the Super Bowl as well. So those are the 3 guys that kind of jump out at you as well. A whole bunch of other things. We got an incredible week ahead of us here on Locked On Rams to get into as much of this as we can. Coming up tomorrow, I want to talk about how much better prepared Sean McVay might be for this Super Bowl run than he was back in Super Bowl 53 just a couple of years ago. Thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis from Lee Sterling. Until next time, whose house? It is the NFC champion Los Angeles Rams Locked On house.